And okay, so is it William? Is it Bill? Is it Will? What should I call you here?
Yeah, William, Will, Bill,
Will,
anything
Bill.
above. Yeah, I answer
So
to anything.
so so I was a Katz. I was born Vicki Katz. I was the plural of you.
Wow.
So once upon a time. So yes, so Nancy Allen. Nancy, I love you. Thank you for doing this. Of course, Bill had no memory of meeting me because I'm so memorable. And it was like 3 weeks ago. No, but they were like, all these people get so excited to meet you, as you know, because you 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 are so important to so many of us who grew up with you. Because we did, we all grew up together, right?
Yeah, yeah, I guess we did. Yeah.
So I'm going to talk to you about your
I want to
mom
make
and your
sure I'm
dad.
recording that so you can tell my kids how important.
Okay,
Hey,
that's a really good place to start. Do your kids appreciate who you are?
fuck no.
No. They've seen Carrie.
Yeah, they've seen Carrie. Yeah, they've seen Carrie and a couple other movies. Yeah.
Do they approve of Carrie? Do they think you're great in that?
Uh, I I think so. I
Come
mean,
on.
I don't
They
know.
appreciate that.
Yeah, they appreciated it because I would whip them. And
Now,
what?
I'm guessing that, okay, so how do they feel about The Greatest American Hero? Because of the way times have changed and technology has changed, that was also like one of the first tongue-in-cheek, if not the first tongue-in-cheek superhero. Do they get it?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, people still come up to me. How many years ago was that? Many, many years ago. And they've introduced it to their kids and now their grandkids. And it
It
kind of
still works.
well, it does to a certain extent. It does, and people really appreciate that. And at the time, Vicky, there was I thought that it had decimated my career because nobody that put me into kind of a box,
It was very brave of you to do that. What?
put me into kind of a box. And nowadays you got people like Downey and all these actors that want to get that type of superhero franchise, but it wasn't the
Right.
case then.
Well, it was very brave of you to do that because you were sort of, all right, well, you started out in TV, and I heard you say that you started out doing Policewoman with Angie Dickenson,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
she was kind of hot.
He
She's
was very hot. I mean, all my friends were very jealous. I got to sit in the elevator with my arms around her for days. It was like something you never forget.
so so you did TV, but then you had the breakout in Carrie. So to go back to TV in those days, people were not going back and forth.
No, no, it wasn't. God forbid you wanted to do a TV commercial. Maybe you would do one overseas in Japan or something, which I
Right,
did a Kirin beer commercial many years ago. But nowadays, everybody is doing everything. Everybody
right.
voiceover and commercials and everybody has a perfume and a scent out. Even people like Johnny Depp and all these wonderful actors. I go, God bless them. How wonderful times have changed.
Well, but so how did you make that? Did your agent make the decision? How did you decide, okay, this is going to be okay for me to do a TV series?
Well, I could tell you a lie, but I'm going to tell you the truth. What happened?
Good.
Okay, I did. I was cast at that time. What did I do? After I did Big Wednesday, then I did Butch and Sundance, the early days with Tom Berenger. Not a well-received film, but a very good film. Richard Lester
A,
directed that.
a really good film,
It
and
was a
you
very
were,
cool film.
it was
And
a very cool film, and you
I
guys were both great. And you to be able to pull off a Robert Redford before you did, you did,
well,
you
yeah,
did.
but what happened after that is I couldn't get. I got hired and fired off of three films right in a row. All payer.
What?
I did.
Why?
Let me take my notes. I did. I was hired to do November Gale with Genevieve Bujold and Sterling Hayden in up in Canada. A week before shooting, that got canceled. I was hired to do a Never Cry Wolf that Charlie Martin Smith ended up doing.
Why did you get fired from that?
the director and I, whose name I forget, Caleb Deschanel, we didn't like each other. And I went in, I said, oh, I want to play it kind of like Charlie Martin Smith. And I came in next week and Charlie Martin Smith was sitting in his office and ended up doing the role. I said, well, fuck you.
What?
God's honest truth. And then I was hired to do First Monday in October with Walter Matthau. And I got hired and fired in 3 days because they said I wasn't funny.
They
And
what?
that's around a table read. I mean, we didn't even do it. So I don't know. I think I fucking pissed off a bunch of people, you know.
Did you have a lot of swagger back in those days?
I don't know.
You certainly had the look for it. You know, I always wonder about guys that are just too damn good looking. Like you could just get away with it because you could just get away with anything because you were so damn good looking. So but to meet you, your character in Carrie, you were so lovely, you were so kind, you were so sweet. And when I met you a few weeks ago, as you remember, you were exactly like that. But I assume that there was a time in your life when you probably weren't so much like that because you didn't have to be. Tell us.
There probably was a time. I mean, my greatest memories of all of that. I mean, I'm a theater guy. I came out of the theater. I started at South Coast Repertory. I did 4 seasons with them. I've done so many Lort Theater productions in
I
Kansas City,
love that.
Kansas, Seattle. I worked with Randy Newman for 6 months. I've been on Broadway with Bob Fosse.
Okay, we're going to talk about that.
On national tour with with George Rose, and I've done so much theater. Nobody ever knows what the fuck I did because it was all Lord Theater. I mean, it wasn't on Broadway except for Pippin and.
Are you classically trained?
Oh fuck yeah! Oh yeah!
Where did you train?
I trained here at South Coast Repertory. Many classes. I was in the master class with Gordon Hunt in Los Angeles for years.
Wow.
I
Wow.
looked at the taper. I did 4 plays with Gordon.
Wow.
God rest
Is that Helen's father? Is that
That's her
Helen's?
father. Yeah,
Yeah,
but he
yeah.
was a wonderful casting director.
That's what I
He
hear.
turned out to be a wonderful director.
Mhm.
I did a play with him that he had cast. Well, I did a bunch of plays. Shadow.
Did you do I'm sorry to interrupt you. Did you study singing and dance? You must have
Yeah.
studied all of that.
All of that. Yeah, I had a singing coach, and I was in. It's nauseating how much work I did.
No. But it's important. It's important for young people to hear that this doesn't just come to you, that you have to work to get it.
One of my greatest stories, I went up to audition for Bill Ball in San Francisco.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
ACT. Hello.
ACT. Well, I worked at ACT when I did with Newman. I worked up at ACT in 2000.
What did you do with Randy Newman?
2003. I was
Randy
doing the
Newman.
educational Randy Newman
Oh, wow.
that we played at the Seattle Rep for 6 months. We were going to go to New York, and then something happened, and the play didn't go on to New York. That was a big disappointment for me. Big disappointment because it was a brilliant play.
Wow.
It started at the South Coast Repertory. I was not there when they did that. Went to ACT. I went to New York several times to meet the director and worked with him. And then we went up there. That was great.
What was your role in this play?
In that, there's 7 people on stage with a 7-piece band, and we never got off stage. We're sitting in a circle, and we all came up and did our shtick. We had like 3 or 4 songs that were solos, and then all of us had background singing for all the rest. The great thing about it is that we all had to read music, and so not a lot of actors could do that, but all these actors could. Yeah.
And when did you start studying music? Do you play piano?
I played piano and guitar. Oh my God!
I know you play guitar. Did you study piano when you were a kid?
I'm not a great piano player, but I'm okay. And in fact, but I did 2 years of music theory, so I could read a little bit, and do that. I could keep up with people.
When did you start playing guitar?
14.
And did you play in like, did you have a rock band and stuff?
I had bands. Yeah, I had bands I played with or whatnot.
Mhm.
But my main thrust in my teens and my early 20s was chasing girls and surfing. That was my main thrust.
Well, that make that there you go. That's what you should be doing. Okay, but so I don't even know where we were in this story. But okay, so your mom, all right, I have to tell you,
A
and I
lot
have
of
to,
let me
yeah,
digress. We
go
were doing a
ahead.
lot of theater. No one knows how much theater I've done, but I've done a lot of theater. And at my age now, I don't miss the film industry because I'm pretty much semi-retired, except for working with friends. But I do miss doing the theater. I like the theater
Okay, so we were talking just before we came on the air about why no theater now. So tell us, Bill, why what?
because this up here, my body wants to do it, but this up here, I can't memorize 100 pages anymore.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I used to be able to memorize 7, 8, 10 pages of dialogue like that.
Okay, so we're going here because I'm
And,
thinking of
and
it right
now
now.
I can't, when I think about 100 pages of dialogue and on stage for 2.5 hours, it boggles my mind. I go, just no way I can do that.
Okay, so what about, okay, so let's say you get, okay, do you still audition or do you get the call?
I haven't had an agent in 20 years. So
Really?
I just
But you're
work with,
still working all the time. You just did a film with John Cusack.
yeah, but those are all friends of mine, the producers. When you get to be my age, a lot of the people I grew up with that were first ADs and PAs and whatnot, they all became producers or directors and whatnot. And I've stayed friends with a lot of people. And so, the way it is now is that when someone is doing something and they go, oh, let's see, Bill Katt, he might be good for this part. Let's give him a call. And they give a call and I go and I read the script and I say, yeah, that sounds like fun. I just did a film with Alfred Molina not too long ago.
Fantastic.
Oh, that was just a hoot. But again, it was friends of mine producing the film, so
So now how much dialogue did you have to learn for that?
too much.
So now what did you so how do you do it? What do you do? Do you have a thing?
Do I have a thing? Oh,
Do you
I
have a
say,
way to do it?
someone behind the camera says, Bill, you fucked up. You fucked up. This is the line, okay? Just repeat after me.
So when you're doing a film and you know
Yeah.
you're going to have a scene that day, do you just learn the scene for the day? How do you do it? How do you
Yeah,
prep?
you learn the scene for the day. Typically the way it works on a series or something like that. The night before you learn the first scene. And when you're doing the first scene in between takes, because it's always like 15, 20, 30 minutes between takes and setups, right?
Right.
You do a master, then you do coverage. Well, then you're learning the next scene that you're going to shoot next after lunch. And that's the way it works. And then you read lines with the script supervisor or an assistant. A lot of people have assistants.
And does it like the panic for me is that I'm just not going to remember. And so does that happen? Do you ever get like you just can't get a line in your head? Does that ever happen to you?
It depends on what happened the night before.
Okay. All right. So I saw, and I'm going to bring this is out of order to your life, but I saw your screen test for Star Wars, which is so mind-blowing that you tested for
Oh,
Luke Skywalker and that the Han Solo that you tested with was Kurt Russell. Oh my God, if it would have been you two guys, a whole different thing would have
I feel
happened.
I feel sorry for him. His career never amounted to anything, did it? I feel so sorry
Yeah.
for him.
Well, I mean, you guys and you guys did a really good job. I mean, it was a very convincing, wonderful scene, but so much dialogue. And you had all that technical, I don't know what you were saying. I didn't even understand it. But that was like a lot of stuff. So how much time do you remember? Like how much time did you have to prep for that screen test? That was a lot of dialogue you had to learn.
Oh, you're going back a long way. I don't really offhandedly remember. I haven't seen that scene in many years, but at
But
the
you
at
were able to do it,
the
obviously.
time at the time, I'm pretty sure I was doing something at the taper. I was an understudy in Shadow Box or Too Much Johnson, something I was doing down there. And I tested for that. And a few days later, I think it was I tested for Carrie with DePalma.
Okay, so and those were happening somewhere. We're going to talk about that too. All right, so let's go back because, and I have to say this, I have to pay respects to my oldest friend, Andy Sheffman, my children's godfather, because his favorite show of all time is Perry Mason. He has seen every episode. He still watches them to this day. Your mother is his goddess. We used to watch them together in college. I mean, Perry Mason is it. Your mother your mother was so gorgeous and really one of the first television really competent, together, sophisticated, capable, no bimbo, no bullshit.
Let me interject something that's just an offhanded remark. Before my mom passed a few years ago, I went and saw there was a speaking engagement by Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor. And we went there and she took my mom aside and she said, Barbara, she said, you're one of the reasons I wanted to be a lawyer. She said, because at the time when I was a little girl and I was watching television, you were one of the only women that was a professional woman.
Wow.
Because everyone was housewives at that time.
Absolutely.
Anyway, that's
Absolutely.
a little
She
bit
was
of
a tremendous and she was beautiful while she was doing it. She was smart, she was beautiful, she was competent, she was all of those things. And it was a spectacular show. And then you got to do it with her and Raymond Burr, which is crazy.
And let me tell you, she was funny as shit in real life.
Was
I mean,
she?
oh my God. I mean, if anyone got to know Betty White, that's my mom.
I met Betty White and she was hysterical.
She's hysterical. Well, my mom
So
was that fun.
really, and so now I know much less about your dad. He's familiar to me. Was your dad funny?
No.
No.
He had a great sense of humor, but he was not funny. He was a real German character. He was a German, brought to this country. Both his parents were German. He was born in New York, and he was just a hardworking, blue collar kind of a guy who had a little bit of luck. After vaudeville, he went and became a television star. For
Kid
many years.
Carson, right?
By
Yeah.
by the middle of the 60s, he was kind of done. And he
Mm.
really liked working with his hands, and he did a lot of building and developing buildings and owned a lot of out here in the valley, Chatsworth. I remember as a kid going out there, he built a lot of buildings and he
Wow.
enjoyed it. He enjoyed it. Great
Wow.
work ethic. He taught me a great work ethic.
And so as a little kid, did you understand what your parents did? Was it romantic what your parents did, or was it just, oh, that's what my parents do?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, anyone from Jeff Bridges and a lot of the actors who were kids of parents who were actors, they would say it, knew no different. That's just the way it was, you
So
know?
did like their friend so were there like famous people that would come to the house? Like, did you socialize? Were you friends with other famous people's kids?
No, I was not. I mean, I met a lot of the kids, from Johnny Provost and some of the other kids that were
Mhm.
working at the time. I met Jeff, a number of times, but there was a lot of guys that were in the business, but it wasn't a big deal. You'd see them on the set because I'd go to the set with my mom and my dad, and they were working on another sound stage, and I'd go in there and say, hey, you
But
know.
you worked a little bit. You did something when you were just a kid,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I did a rawhide with Eastwood, my dad on that. And I did a couple of the Masons with my mom. I met Betty Davis once on the Perry Mason set. That was pretty amazing before she passed. I love
Wow.
I remember that very well.
But you didn't get bitten then, did you?
Oh,
No.
no.
So you're this little kid and you're getting these experiences and your parents are having this life. When you're a little kid, what do you want to be? Do you have a thing that you want to do?
I don't remember offhand. I mean, maybe I wanted to I did a lot of flying when I was in college, but I also started my entrance into the theater. I worked behind the stage and doing sound and the light board at South Coast Repertory, and So I had a lot of things,
And was it ever like, I want to be a rock star? Because you were a
oh,
musician?
no, I was never
No.
a rocker. I loved music. And I played music. I played clubs around LA when I was in 19 and 20. I actually was playing with Al Jarreau for a while at the Blah Blah
Mhm.
Cafe. He was every Saturday night, and I was every
Wow.
Wednesday night for about a year. Um, yeah, there was a bunch of people that came up during that time.
Wow. Okay, so how did you get bit?
I started making money. To the God's honest truth, I started making money.
In the theater?
No, I started doing, what did I do? I did, my first big thing was with David Jansen and Yaphet Kotto, called Night Chase. That was my first big thing, and I started making money. And I was at South Coast Repertory at the time and in college. And I did that, and then I got an agent, and I started to pick up some work here and there. Did a U-Band coffee commercial and a couple other little things like that. But I enjoyed making some money. And then when I started working with Gordon Hunt, taking his acting class, I started making some money. I was at the taper, making a couple bucks, as an understudy. And a couple of times I did a few things. Ormer Locklear, which was a great. Mark Norman, who won a Academy Award for Shakespeare in Love,
Oh, sure.
the writers. I was doing a play of his. Oh my God, yeah. So I was working.
Okay, so now you come up and you have this screen test for George Lucas. Now, okay, so what is that like? You're a young man. You don't know that this is going to be like the biggest franchise that ever hit the world, but I would imagine you want the part, right?
I wanted to work, and
Okay.
nobody knew who George Lucas was at the time. Really, he had done
Mhm.
some other stuff, but I knew DePalma, and it was touted that this film was going to be something, right? Um, and I went and I saw some of his films, Get to Know Your Rabbit, and a couple of things he did with Bobby De Niro and whatnot,
Mhm.
and they were good. And I don't know, it just happened that I was really good friends with Amy Irving, and at
Now,
the
I heard
time,
there was a little romance there before.
oh, very, very brief, but Amy was this beautiful young girl. She had just come back from England, from Lambda. I think she was in school over there. So I think she toyed with me at the time. We were friends. We were friends, very good friends for a while. It was more friendly than anything else.
Did Brian do a chemistry read with you guys?
You know what? I don't really remember that. I
Because
just
I think
remember.
Nancy told me that her recollection was that Brian really put people together, like really made sure that there was chemistry with the players before he did final casting. And she said that you and Amy had this great chemistry from before, so he knew that would work.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought it worked on camera when I
Oh,
saw it. No,
absolutely.
there was some scenes that were cut out. One scene particularly in the back of a car that we did up at the top of Laurel Canyon when we're macking on each other in the back of a car. I remember that day Steven came, and I'm not sure if that's when he met her, but I think it might have been.
Wow.
I don't I don't
Right.
know. Don't quote.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. I won't quote you.
But at any rate, but I wonder, did Nancy did she audition for the role of anything, or did she audition just for that role with John opposite John?
I'm going to have to ask her again, and we've talked about this before, but I think it was about I think it was about her and John. I think
Well, they
from
had
the
great
get-go.
chemistry too.
They
Yeah.
did.
God.
Incredible chemistry. Yeah, they had great chemistry. But also Betty Buckley came out of that, and Piper Laurie. I mean, it's like so many people, and Sissy. Oh my God! I mean, like so many people came out of that movie. It's just incredible, and
Yeah.
it's the one Stephen King movie that's better than the book. It's it's
It is
better
better
than
than the book. I remember reading the book. I didn't care for it.
yeah. It was short little thing, his books are brilliant, but that's the one that's Brian did a better job than Steven did with that one. So okay, so now you get cast in that, and do you know when you're cast, this is going to be a game changer for me?
No, had no idea. I went back and I did some theater after that. And then it came out sometime later. I mean, when you do a film, it's like 6 months or a year
Oh,
later.
Nancy's here.
Oh, hey, Nancy.
She said I only tested with John. Thanks,
Oh, okay.
Nancy.
Okay. Because I never tested with her. I never tested with anyone else. I think I did with Cissy.
Well, yeah, you would have had to with Sissy because so much of what you did was with, well, yeah, I mean, you had
But I really didn't work with, I didn't even meet John or Nancy, or the only time that I really interacted with them was at
the prom,
at the prom.
right?
I mean, we shot 2 weeks at the prom. That's when I got to meet everybody, and everybody was so sweet.
Okay, so how much later after you shoot does the movie come out?
I don't know. It might have been a year later.
Nancy said we would have been great together. Yes, you would have.
She's such a doll.
Yes, she is. So, okay, so it comes out a while later, and how is it like instant that like, okay, does it take off? I don't remember.
I think it did take off right away, and I think it was in Newsweek.
Nancy knows.
Magazine.
6 months.
Yeah, it was in Newsweek and Time Magazine. I mean, it was the first. It really took the horror genre to a new level.
Oh God,
Like
yeah.
an A-list film, and it was a seminal film for Brian DePalma, and I think he even talked about it in his documentary that was so great. That it
Absolutely.
really changed his trajectory of his film career.
It was terrifying, and it still is. We just watched it. Snuffy and I just watched it a couple weeks ago. It's still terrifying, and the ending is still. And I know what's coming, and it still scares me every time I see it.
I had no idea until just a few years ago that it was actually Cissy's hand coming out of the grave at the end. I had no idea.
It really is?
Well, Nancy told me that. That Cissy wanted to have her hand, so she was buried under the ground. And when Amy Irving reaches down at the graveside at the end of the film, the hand comes out and grabs her.
Right.
It's actually Cissy's hand.
That's unbelievable. Now that's dedication.
Oh,
So, okay, so how soon after that you're doing theater, the movie comes out, and what happens with you?
Oh, I don't know. I could go out with anybody I wanted. That's all I know.
Nancy says her husband buried her. Jack, that's funny. So
Jack buried her. Oh,
you
there
could
you
go
go.
out. You could go out with anybody you wanted. I love that. So the work is now coming in, right?
After that film? Yeah, there was some things coming in, but there wasn't a lot of great films, interesting films for young men like me at the time. I mean, I think the next film I did was First Love, Susan Day. I did some theater in between there, of course, because I did theater pretty much every year. For 20 or 30 years, I did theater.
I love that so much.
But I think I did First Love, which I didn't want to do at the time. I turned it down 2 or 3 times at Paramount.
Why is that?
Well, I didn't think it would be an important film. And although I really loved Joan Darling, who was the director, and she had great cachet. She was like one of the top acting coaches in Los Angeles. And that finally convinced me. And we did the film, and as it turned out, it wasn't heralded. It wasn't a great film for me to do, and I don't know if I contributed to it not being successful.
Oh,
no, but at the time, it had all the earmarkings of something that would be interesting. It pales by comparison to some of the films that are made like that today, right? It does. But
okay.
It was at the time It was what they were willing to do. The censors were willing to do.
And so something you did that broke through everything at the time, The Greatest American Hero, which
Oh, yeah.
just okay, so we started to talk about this. That it was kind of a very bold move to go from film to TV in those days because it's something people didn't do. Did you fear that you'd never work in film again when you did that?
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. Oh, yeah. I thought
And
that was,
was there some pushback? Did you have a hard time getting back into film after that?
well, I did. I think that one of the things that saved me after the first seasons, I did Pippin from Broadway, and I worked with
Oh,
Bob Fosse and
okay.
Ben Vereen, Cheetah Rivera, and that kind of gave me a little bit more cachet.
Oh God.
But
Yeah, I just got to tell you, William, there's been a lot of Pippins, but your corner of the sky. Woohoo! I mean, I've seen it 100 times if I've seen it at all, and I've watched the whole thing through. Do you know that that was the first Broadway production that was filmed in entirety
you know
for
that.
video?
Yeah.
Yeah, the very first one.
And the story, and it was Bob wasn't supposed to direct it. And forgive me, I'm forgetting the name of the man who took credit for it. But he came to the rehearsals at Broadway Arts in New York the first day, and he never left. His assistant Kathy was going to do all the staging and whatnot, but Bob came and he was so enamored with everything that he stayed, and he never, every day he was there. And he went to Toronto because we filmed it up there. He went to Toronto and he taught a hockey team, the guys that were shooting hockey. He taught them, he brought them into the theater and he showed them how he wanted it shot. And there, I think it was like 7 or 9 cameras, but it was hockey television guys, the crew that filmed it because they had never done anything like that. At least
Now,
that's the story I heard.
being directed by Bob Fosse, did you do the hands? I mean, like, what's it like being directed by Bob Fosse? I can't even.
What I can't even either, and
I mean,
working with
how
Vereen and
hands-on
Gina.
or hands-off was he?
He was very hands-on, very hands-on. Usually when you do a play in the theater, you take the whole play and you go to the outside circle and you work backwards and in and in and in and you dig deep and you try to solve the puzzle. But Bob had done it so many times. Oh my God, John Rubinstein was so brilliant
Hmm.
as Pippin, and
Hmm.
Mike Rupert took over and he
Hmm.
was so wonderful. What a great voice. So he had done it. And when he came to us, so I couldn't do more than 3 or 4 minutes when he would correct what I had to do. And he was very attuned to the minutia of
But
all
he
the,
wasn't trying to make you into them. He was letting you be you, correct?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I, I would have to think about that. I
Ah.
think so. I mean,
Mhm.
listen, he cast me. I mean, I auditioned for the play 4 or 5 times for years for Stu Ostrow, who was producing it. And finally, when I came, he was auditioning in Los Angeles, and I walked into the room and I said, "Mr. Fosse, do I have to sing this again? You've heard me so many times." And he said, "No, kid, you got the job." Yeah,
Oh.
and that's the story. And I'll tell you the funny thing, when we were opening the first night, and of course I was losing my shit. I was so nervous.
Oh my God.
Big 3,000 seat audience, right? And I'm behind the stage, and the proscenium curtain is down, and I'm behind the stage going through my opening motions for A Corner of the Sky, and I feel a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around and it's Bob Fosse, and he says, "You got it, kid. Don't worry about it." You know,
Oh.
that was
Wow.
I'm tearing up a little bit now because it was a great memory.
That's I can't what was that like to walk out that first time, do that and I would imagine you got thunderous, crazy applause after you did that number. I can't even imagine what that felt like after. Do you remember that feeling?
Well, I was scared shitless. I was scared.
Well, that's
Yeah.
given, I guess. Yeah. No, but I mean, when the number was done and you were taking, do you have a second to take it in, or are you just too
Oh
busy
no.
with what you have to do
No, no,
next?
no, no. You're not
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The nerves go away at that point. Once you're through the opening number, then you go on, and then you got to do right track, and you got to do all the other things.
Yeah.
And Ben was so great. I mean, I've always been an actor who could move, but I wasn't a dancer. And Ben was so great. He came in 2 Sundays, his days off. He came in to work with me
Oh.
to coach me on how to do the right track, which is that great dance number that the player and Pippin do.
And
Ah,
so what was that like working with Ben Vereen? I mean, what a
he's just a master, you know. He's just a master. I mean, this is the guy who won the Tony for it.
and Cheetah Rivera was in that. It was in
Yes. Yeah.
oh my
Almost got to work with her again. She did Kiss of the Spider Woman a number of years later, and I almost got it. I auditioned for the guys, almost got it. It was me and another gentleman, and he got it. I tried to have him killed, but no.
Wow. How much other musical theater have you done?
Well, quite a bit, you know.
Wow.
My favorite was I did with George Rose. I did a national tour before I did the Masons of Pirates of Penzance. I played the Pirate King, and
How
that was just,
fabulous.
that was just so much fun. I kind of played it as Peter Pan. I didn't do it. Kevin Kline was so brilliant in that role when they
I
originated.
saw Kevin Kline in it. Yeah.
You can't do Kevin Kline. He's just one of a kind. So I
Yeah.
just thought, oh, I'll be Peter Pan. And
How
I
great.
did it like that. And then I did, oh my God, I've done so many things. Smoke on the Mountain in Kansas City was one of my favorite plays I ever did in 2000. And my other favorite play was, well, besides many others, I Hate Hamlet in Oklahoma City at their main stage. But I worked with Randy Newman, and I think I talked about it a minute ago. And that was a master class, you know.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so let's go back to Greatest American Hero, because my friend Ann Lepore will not forgive me if I don't, because it's her favorite show. She was so excited that you were doing this. So getting into the outfit, I imagine that was a little, was it traumatizing? Was it traumatizing to have to get into tights?
Oh, fuck yeah. Real traumatized. You know, and when God rest his soul, when Steve Cannell came to New York, I was doing a play off Broadway, Bonjour la Bonjour.
Mhm.
And he came to see the play on an afternoon, and we took me out to dinner, and we talked about the script. And I must admit, I wasn't going to do television, but I read the script, and it was laugh out loud funny. And he came and he cajoled me and was very gracious. And I said, I committed to doing it, but he wouldn't. I said, let's talk about this suit, Steve. He said, oh, you're going to love it, Bill. You're going to love it. Don't worry about that. And he wouldn't tell me about the suit. So when we finally got to Los Angeles, because my hair was brown at the time, because I was playing a French Canadian. So I came back the first thing in the morning. I had my hair dyed back to blonde. And then we walked into costuming and whatnot. And I saw the suit for the very first time. And it was like mortifying. It was mortifying. And I said, oh my God, I'm never going to work again. Because, you know, it sagged in all the wrong places. I like to say it was hot in the summer and cold in the winter. You know?
God. It wasn't like spandex, like good spandex with support and stuff. No.
No, not at that time.
No. Oh
Hold on.
my.
How dare my wife walking through here? Get out of here.
No.
This is very, very important.
Oh yeah, this is very professional. There can be
Yeah.
any walking around in the back.
It's hot as balls here. Well, you're in Encino. You know?
It's hotter here. I don't know where you are, but
Get out of here.
Yeah. We haven't talked about that. We haven't talked about kids and
Oh,
being married and all that stuff.
Oh.
So okay, so the suit was okay. So Robert Culp. So getting to that relationship, did you guys have chemistry from the start? What was that
fuck.
like?
Oh God, Bob and I? Oh no,
Yeah.
no. We did. He wanted to know who this young upstart was. You know, Bob had won. He had done his TV series as Western. He did I Spy with Cosby, and a lot of people don't know Cosby won his first Emmy for a script that Bob had written.
What?
Yeah. I think that's a little bit of trivia there.
For I Spy?
I Spy.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't know he was a writer.
Oh, he
Wow.
thought of himself first as a writer and then as a
Wow.
director and then as an actor.
Wow.
And he wrote four scripts for Hero, but we only produced two, which he directed.
Wow.
Um, but we did not get along very well for the first 2 or 3 weeks. There was a lot of animosity there for some reason. But I think it worked for
More his part, your part, both? What do you think?
I it's so long ago, I can't remember. There probably was a little bit of both.
Hmm.
Know? But I used to say it's the greatest American hero, not the greatest American hero and friends. Right? I think that bugged the shit out of him. No, one day after a couple of weeks, I knocked on his trailer and I said, "Hey, Bob, can I come in for a minute?" And we talked. I said, "Let's arrive at some sort of détente so that we're going to be together for a long time." And we did. And then from thereafter, we became very fast professional friends.
Ah. Mhm.
And he taught me how to write.
Wow.
He taught me
How
how
did
to
he do
write
that?
because we would rewrite all the scenes that came in from the producers and make it sound like it came out of our mouths.
Uh-huh.
We wouldn't change the trajectory of the scene or the plot, but we would change some of the dialogue inside of it. So it made it more akimbo to who we were, you know?
Wow, I love that.
I don't know. It worked out. And I think about him in the aftermath as a great mentor for me. I
And so
really,
were you able to improvise? Um, did any of like the comedic moments happen on?
oh God, yes, there was a lot of things. And the producers, and God bless Steve Cannell, I mean, he had the wherewithal to allow us to do that. Whereas the difference, you worked for an Aaron Spelling, you couldn't change and to but. You couldn't change a syllable. And
Wow.
it very, which I worked with him for on a couple shows, Seventh Heaven and a few other things, Models Inc. But it made it difficult for me because that's not the way I've always liked to work as an actor. I
Hmm.
really like a script, but I like to improvise and work around the script, you know.
Sandy Hilberg is saying, ask him about Harriet.
Harriet, Harriet, not
I,
ringing a bell.
I don't know who Harriet is. Harriet who, Sandy? I don't know who you're talking. Oh, Harriet Hilberg, his wife. Did Harriet get you a part? She's casting director, Harriet Hilberg, Sandy's wife. I don't
Oh,
know. I
I'm
asked Sandy. I don't know.
so sorry. The
Um,
name, the name strikes a bell, but I can't. It's
Harriet was
clear.
it
It's
was
in
a
a
very,
fog.
very big casting director, actually, and I'm sure she must have been responsible for getting you at least one of your parts.
Oh, God. Well, God bless her. Thank her so
God
much.
bless her.
She's still with us. Thank her.
I'm thinking she cast Carrie. Harriet
Oh,
cast Carrie.
okay.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, Nancy. I love Harriet. And I'm
Thank you,
thinking,
Dan.
who's Harriet? I'm seeing Sandy Hilbert. Who's Harriet? Oh, that Harriet. Some Pam just asked, who is your favorite leading lady?
Ooh. Oh, Nancy Allen.
Well, she wasn't your leading lady, though, but
Yeah.
that's a good answer. That's
Yeah.
a
Well,
very good answer.
she's watching, so I have to say that. Yeah. And she's such a doll. I love her to
She
death.
certainly is.
She's done such great work too. Who's my favorite leading lady? I I don't know that I have one. Maybe Connie Selleca, because
Hmm.
she's just such a doll. It was so much fun to go to work with her during Greatest American Hero because a lot of people don't know how funny she was. I mean,
Hmm.
no one had more blue jokes than Bonnie, than Connie. You know, you get in the makeup chair in the morning and you just start laughing and you laugh all day long.
Hmm. That's fun. So, all right, how about House? I mean, so you make a movie and it's in a genre. Do you know that like I think 90% of the movies that come into movie theaters now are horror movies. It seems to be the only thing that plays in theaters these days are horror movies. And you made one of the first ones that was fun, that had humor before Scream and all of that stuff happened. Um,
Well, there was Evil Dead, and there was,
it wasn't a big genre though back in those days.
I think it was one of the first post MTV films. It had that kind of sensibility. Uh, uh, and I think it really came out at the right time, you know? I think it was just timely. It came out. I did read the script. Steve Miner had a thing going on, or the director. He had a thing going on that it was going to be his pivotal film, and it put him further on the map than his previous films had. But he was already a great film, and he had a wicked sense of humor. And I have to tell you, the humor in that film really came from Steve Miner, and I got to work with George Wendt,
I
who's the
love
master of
George.
the dry take,
Mm.
and Richard Mall, and oh, there was so many wonderful people in that film.
Hmm. Um, what else? The Man from Earth.
Oh, that was a surprise. I read that script and I couldn't put it down. I read 10 pages and I couldn't put it down. And I think I was the first actor cast on that. We shot with a really shitty camera at the time. I mean, it could have looked a lot better, but we shot it in 6 days. We rehearsed for a week and then we shot it in six all-nighters. And the script is the thing that stood out in that. You got a guy that's 10,000 years old. He doesn't know why he's alive. He's not a vampire. He's not undead. He's not a monster. He just keeps living. And when you watch the film, I always tell people, if you watch the first 10 minutes, you'll finish it because the story is so intriguing. And that's what drew me to that film.
Have you seen a show called From?
No.
Okay, I got to tell you, we just found this a few days ago and we've binged 2 seasons. It is shockingly fabulous. I'm not going to say more about it. It's called From, and if you like this whole idea of what you're talking, it's really well done. It's terrific. And I don't want that. I'm not a big of the whole sci-fi thing, but it's really well done. Really, really good.
Nice.
Kind of got a feeling like Lost. I didn't watch Lost, but I've been told it's kind of got that vibe. But anyway, it's really, really good. So pandemic wise, how did this impact your life? And is your life different? And what are you doing now, Bill? What does life look like now?
During pandemic, I mean, my wife has been a long time working in hotel design for many, many years. So my kitchen table that I'm speaking to you from had 3 computer monitors on it, and she would work all day long, get up in the morning and work all day long in the kitchen. I'd be back in the other room messing around, doing my hobby of music. And then we would text each other, "What do you want for lunch?" I don't know. And then we come and meet half day, and then we'd see each other at the end of the day. And so that's mainly what I was doing. Talk to my kids on the phone and doing a lot of music, just playing a lot of music. I have a little studio in the house. I've
Okay,
been
so let's talk about that music. So okay, so you had a single that,
oh, 100 years ago, for God's sakes. Yeah.
but it was a pop single, and it's really, uh, I saw Joseph Williams today, who's the lead singer of Toto. It had that whole pop, like Journey, Foreigner, Toto. It kind of had that vibe.
Yeah,
Um,
I was friendly with Lukather for a long time. Yeah.
we just saw Luke. We just saw Toto at the bowl a couple weeks ago. They were
Oh,
great.
nice. Nice.
So what is the music that's got your interest today? What kind of music are
Well,
you making now?
I've been a hack working at it for gee whiz, the last 45 years, maybe 50 years. And it was a lot of Joni Mitchell was a big influence. So I was doing the
Mhm.
folk rock thing early on, playing clubs. And then I moved to, I was playing a lot of country western.
Do you play covers? Do you write your own music? What do you do?
Always my own, always my
Love
own.
that.
Hundreds of songs, you know, uh, but mainly just on my own, on my computer. Some people have covered a couple things. Uh, but I did that, and then I moved into playing with a little jazz trio a while ago. And now it's kind of a
Okay, I don't understand jazz. Like progressive jazz? Like what is jazz? Jazz is a lot of things. There's
smooth jazz,
popular, there's
smooth jazz,
what jazz?
smooth,
Smooth jazz. Okay,
smooth
that I can
jazz, more
understand. Yeah,
R&B, blues,
yeah,
smooth
yeah.
jazz kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been working with Quinn Johnson, who's Steve Terrell's music director,
Mm-hmm.
doing all the keyboards for me. I play it well enough to give him the charts, make the charts with my friend Mike Turner. We will send out the charts. I'll give it to Quinn. He'll send it back to me because that's the way we had to work during COVID, right?
Right.
And then I'd send it out. Once we have that, then I'll send it out to Kevin Winnard, who's playing all the drums for me, a great jazz drummer, and different bass players and guitar players and whatnot. I pretty much have I write everything well enough to have other people that are really good play it and make me sound good, right? And then I take
So,
all the accolades. I said, yes, aren't I great?
and are you gonna get out there and gig?
Oh, at my age, for God's sakes, no, nobody wants to see a guy my age out there
Hey,
playing.
I just saw today that Ringo Starr is the oldest person out there rocking and rolling. He's the oldest. He's the senior citizen out there rocking and rolling right now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think in
Um,
Western, you get a few of those people that are a little bit up there, but they appreciate that.
mhm.
Forget pop music, man. You got to be 20 years old or 30
Oh
years
yeah.
old the most.
Mhm. So what is it? Okay, so you're saying you don't want to do theater, you're not going to do theater anymore because you don't want to learn the lines. You're not going to go out there and play music. So you're going to basically be at home in your studio. You're going to write music. You're going to record. That's your thing, you think?
I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of young guys that I'm still friendly with, you know.
You're going to
Uh,
get called to do movies, that's for sure.
this film I just did with Molina was pretty darn good. I mean, I've done a lot of really bad films for a lot of different reasons. You know, it started when I was going through a horrendous divorce, 35 years ago. And subsequent to that, I've done a lot of really bad films, but I'm not doing any more bad films anymore. And this recent one that I did is I'm happy to say the name of the film is When We Get There.
I was going to say, can you give us the premise of the film?
Yeah, it's a road trip. Three college graduates, they get a letter and they want to go see who their real father is. And they take a road trip to find the real father. And that's the main thrust of the story. And Alfred Molina is the father, and me and a wonderful, fun actress, Mindy Sterling.
Oh, sure. I
Yeah,
love Mindy.
her and I play husband and wife. And
She's hysterical. Has done this show. I love Mindy. She's
I
hysterical.
love Mindy. She's one of my favorite actresses I've worked with because she's
She's
so off the cuff. I love working with people like Fairuza Balk, Mindy Sterling, off the cuff, never do anything the same way twice. I
Well, because she was a
love that.
groundling.
Yeah,
She knows how to improvise. She's
I love that. And Gary Busey was the same way. You never got the same way twice.
I
You know,
wanted to ask you about that. Big Wednesday, right? You're
yeah, I love
surfing.
that.
So a surfer. So you were a surfer dude for real, weren't you?
For real. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Although PT did a lot, who was the number one in the world, he did a lot of the surfing for me in the big wave surfing. And when we were at Sunset and Waimea and whatnot, he did a lot of that surfing. I would take off and get, get held under for so long that I thought I was going to die. But that was Peter. I'd take off and they'd cut away to Peter surfing. But we looked like brothers. We looked like twin brothers at the time.
Wow. And you three blonde boys, you and Gary Busey and Jan Michael Vincent, the
Oh,
three pretty blonde boys surfing
oh man.
away.
Was there any more handsome guy than Jan Michael Vincent?
Poor Jan
Oh,
Michael Vincent. What so back then though, he was still he was normal back then, wasn't he?
um,
No. Got
kind of
kind of
sorta. Him and Nick Nolte and Busey and Jan, they all had this thing going on.
was so now Gary, that was before the Buddy Holly. Was that before? That was before the Buddy.
Yes, it was before Buddy Holly. Actually, we were at the North Shore shooting uh in Oahu, and he had to leave early because he was going off to do Buddy Holly.
Wow.
Yeah, and then everything changed for him.
Everything. But when he did that, I thought he was a normal guy. I mean, I thought he was a studious, normal guy. I saw him on the street.
No. Gary Busey has never been a normal guy.
Oh my, I saw him on the street. We chatted on the street once, I don't know, about 15 years ago. And I really did think I was on another planet. I have absolutely no idea what that conversation was.
Well, what people don't know is he's a freaking Rhodes Scholar. He is the smartest guy. You would never know it to see
Is that true?
What he did on The Apprentice and everything else. Oh, Gary is so smart.
Wow.
I hope you get Jake on here, his son. Jake and I have been friends for so long.
I would love
Busey's
to.
son, Jake.
I would love to. I've seen, he's a wonderful actor.
Wonderful actor.
Yes.
He's done 100 things. Yeah.
Yes, he's a wonderful actor.
Wonderful
I'm a
actor.
fan.
You should have him on the show.
Connect me. If you would connect me, I would love that.
Great stories. Yeah.
I would love that. I'm actually a fan. I'm seeing him in my head, and I can't remember what the role was, but he's a wonderful actor.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he's got great stories.
About his death.
Well, that too.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Bill, thank you so much for doing this. You're delightful, and I have I crushed on you for a long time, and it's lovely to know that you're a lovely person to go. I gotta say, I had a thing for the hair and but I'm loving I'm liking this look is working for you. I'm liking this.
Okay.
Okay. I'm liking this.
I really had a nice time. Thank you for having me on.
My great pleasure. And I will talk to you again, and thank you again so very much.